Come on now, lads, play on. That's it, that's moving, that's moving.
Can I use that after you?
I beg your pardon?
I want a bath.
A bath? I didn't know it was the Queen's birthday.
I want to look nice for tonight, don't I? Come on, let's get in after you.
Certainly not. Bathing in other people's water? That is disgusting.
Well, you're not dirty. You're always washing. Look. We can see the bottom. No! But we won't have time to fill it up again. We'll be late.
Then you just have to use the kitchen, won't you?
Give us the scrub and brush then.
No, I'm using it. You can use the hammer and chisel.
A first-time shot. Oh, a beautiful piece of timing by Sheldon. Gonna miss it. And so I will ask you now to attempt the classical lotus posture. And I think the best way to begin is if you stretch your legs straight out. All right.
Kingdoms may come, kingdoms may go, everything can be. Old Father Thames keeps rolling along out to the mighty sea.
Evening, Mrs. Hobbs. Oh!
Out to the mighty sea, kingdoms may.
You mind? That is for washing plates. Come on, hurry up. We ain't got all night.
You rotten little...
Cold! How can it be? You've only lost one layer of dirt. Get dressed.
Harold, where's the towel?
It's wet.
Well, how am I going to dry myself then?
Use your handkerchief.
The Rag and Bone Heart of Britain. A biographical exploration of Harold and Albert Steptoe from the sitcom Steptoe and Son. This quintessential British sitcom wasn't just about two men living amongst piles of junk, but a poignant and darkly funny exploration of class, ambition, and the inescapable bonds of family. At its heart were Harold and Albert Steptoe, a father and son rag and bone team whose relationship was as complex and tangled as the debris that surrounded them. Their lives, confined within the dilapidated four walls of their Oil Drum Lane home, offered a microcosm of British society struggling with post-war austerity and the allure of a modern, upwardly mobile future. This is the story of Harold and Albert Steptoe, two characters who, despite their flaws and failings, became enduring icons of British television. Albert Steptoe, the grimy patriarch. Albert Edward Steptoe, played with masterful grumbling and a touch of pathetic vulnerability by Wilfrid Brambell, was the elder Steptoe, a man seemingly cemented into his role as a greasy, unkempt rag-and-bone man. To understand Albert, one must delve into his past, a past only hinted at throughout the series, but one that undoubtedly shaped his present. He was born into a working-class family, likely enduring hardship and poverty throughout his formative years. The specifics of his early life remain shrouded in narrative ambiguity, but the implication is clear: he inherited the rag-and-bone business from his father, a trade he never questioned, a legacy of survival passed down through generations. Albert's appearance reflected his life: permanently grubby, sporting a tattered waistcoat, unkempt hair perpetually escaping his flat cap, and a general aura of pungent disrepair. His attire wasn't merely a reflection of his trade but a defiant statement against any form of social aspiration. He was comfortable, or at least resigned to his lot in life. His personality was a complex tapestry woven with cynicism, sloth, and a surprising streak of wiliness. He possessed a remarkable talent for evading work, often feigning illness or exploiting Harold's inherent sense of responsibility. He was a master manipulator, employing guilt trips, theatrical groans, and outright lies to get his way. He reveled in thwarting Harold's ambitions, whether it was a potential romance, a new business venture, or even just a quiet afternoon reading. Despite his apparent laziness, Albert was no fool. He possessed a shrewd understanding of human nature and a keen eye for spotting an opportunity, albeit usually of the small-scale, penny-pinching variety. He was a survivor, hardened by years of scraping by, and his cynicism was often a defensive mechanism against the possibility of disappointment. Albert's relationship with Harold was a volatile mixture of affection and antagonism. He genuinely loved his son, but his love was often expressed in a suffocating, possessive manner. He saw Harold as his property, his companion, his only connection to the world. He feared being left alone, abandoned in his old age, and he clung to Harold with a tenacity that bordered on the obsessive. This fear manifested as constant undermining and sabotaging of Harold's attempts to escape Oildrum Lane, effectively trapping both of them in their shared misery. Ultimately, Albert represented a generation trapped by circumstance, unable or unwilling to adapt to a changing world. He was a relic of a bygone era, a stubborn survivor clinging to the familiar comforts of his squalid existence. He was a caricature of working-class stoicism, a man who found a perverse kind of contentment in his own stagnation. Harold Steptoe, the aspiring intellectual trapped in a scrap heap. Harold Frederick Steptoe, brought to life with brilliant frustration and simmering resentment by Harry H. Corbett, was the antithesis of his father. He was a man plagued by ambition, intellect, and a yearning for a life beyond the confines of Oildrum Lane, but perpetually tethered to his father and the family business. Harold harbored aspirations of becoming an intellectual, a cultured sophisticate who could discuss philosophy, literature, and art. He craved knowledge and self-improvement, frequently attempting to educate himself through books, classical music, and self-improvement courses. However, these aspirations were constantly ridiculed and undermined by Albert, who saw them as pretentious and a betrayal of their working-class roots. Harold's appearance reflected his aspirations, a perpetual struggle against the grime and squalor that surrounded him. He strived to maintain a semblance of respectability, favoring neat trousers, button-down shirts, and a generally cleaner appearance than his father. He was a man trying to elevate himself, both physically and metaphorically, above the junk heap that defined his life. His personality was a complex blend of idealism and cynicism. He was intelligent, articulate, and possessed a sharp wit, but his constant frustration with his circumstances often manifested as sarcasm and bitterness. He was prone to elaborate schemes and ambitious plans, all aimed at escaping Oildrum Lane and achieving a better life, but his efforts were invariably thwarted by Albert's incompetence, stubbornness, or outright sabotage. Harold dreamed of romance, of finding a partner who shared his intellectual curiosity and his desire for a better life. He pursued a series of ill-fated relationships, each one ending in disappointment due to Albert's interference, Harold's own insecurities, or the sheer incompatibility of his aspirations with the reality of his life. He was a man destined to be alone, a perpetual outsider unable to fully belong to either the world he aspired to or the one he was trapped within. His relationship with Albert was the central conflict of the series. He resented his father for holding him back, for trapping him in a life of drudgery and squalor. He longed for independence, for the freedom to pursue his own dreams, but he was also bound to Albert by a sense of duty, guilt, and a lingering affection. He knew that Albert needed him, even if Albert's need manifested as destructive codependency. Harold represented the changing face of post-war Britain, the aspirations of a generation seeking upward mobility and a better life. He was a man caught between tradition and modernity, torn between his loyalty to his family and his own personal ambitions. He was a tragic figure, a bright mind dulled by circumstance, a potential unfulfilled, forever tethered to the old man and the junk heap. The symbiotic and toxic relationship, a dance of dependence and resentment. The dynamic between Harold and Albert Steptoe was the engine that drove the series. It was a complex, codependent relationship built on a foundation of affection, resentment, and mutual dependence. They were two sides of the same coin, inextricably linked, yet constantly at odds. Albert relied on Harold for practical support, for his intelligence, and for the companionship that alleviated his fear of loneliness. He needed Harold to run the business, to navigate the complexities of the modern world, and to provide a buffer against the outside world. Harold, despite his resentment, also relied on Albert. He was financially dependent on the business and emotionally bound to his father. He was trapped by guilt, by the fear of abandoning Albert, and by a lingering sense of responsibility. He also, perhaps subconsciously, feared the unknown, the prospect of venturing out into a world he felt ill-equipped to navigate without the familiar, albeit stifling presence of his father. Their relationship was a constant tug-of-war, a battle between Harold's aspirations and Albert's inertia. Harold would devise elaborate schemes to escape Oildrum Lane, while Albert would subtly, or not so subtly, sabotage his efforts. Their arguments were legendary, filled with biting wit, stinging insults, and moments of genuine pathos. The enduring popularity of Steptoe and Son lies in its relatable portrayal of family dynamics. The bickering, the resentment, the underlying affection, are all universal experiences. While the setting was uniquely British and the characters were larger than life, the core of their relationship resonated with audiences on a deeply personal level. Legacy, the enduring appeal of squabbles and scrap. Harold and Albert Steptoe were more than just characters in a sitcom, they were cultural icons. They represented a specific slice of British society, a generation grappling with economic hardship and the changing social landscape. Their lives, confined within the walls of Oildrum Lane, offered a poignant commentary on class, ambition, and the inescapable bonds of family. Their enduring appeal lies in their complexity, their flaws, and their relatable humanity. They were not perfect characters, but they were undeniably authentic. They struggled, they bickered, and they often failed, but they also loved, in their own dysfunctional way. Steptoe and Son remains a timeless classic, a testament to the power of character-driven comedy and the enduring fascination with the human condition. Harold and Albert Steptoe, the rag and bone men of Oildrum Lane, left an indelible mark on British television, reminding us that even in the depths of squalor and despair, there is always room for humor, humanity, and a little bit of hope. The junkyard was their prison, but the screens of the nation became their stage, forever enshrining them in the heart of British comedy.